Hi all, Brianna from Maestro here, and today I would like to take you on a vibe coding journey with me. So if you're feeling relatively new to vibe coding and possibly feel intimidated by how complicated it could be or how to get the final result that you want, I'm still relatively new as well, but I have been able to accomplish some really cool things using Mighty's code snippet feature. So today I'll take you through the process of actually implementing a code snippet for this process block. Here you're looking at the before where I have image padding, as Rise normally has around your process block image. But I'm going to take it to this after where my image actually hugs the edge of my process block, which I think creates a really cool custom effect. And I thought that this would be a good example to share because it did take some back and forth with Claude, which is my preferred AI companion as of right now. However, it only took 6 tries to be able to get this to do what I wanted, which in the grand scheme of vibe coding is pretty quick and easy. So let's go through the prompts together. Now, my first pro tip is create a new chat whenever you are trying to start out a new vibe coding process or, a new code snippet. That way you can dig back through your chats and pretty easily get back to the one that you need if you're trying to make just one simple tweak to something that you've already done. So that's step number 1. Just start a new chat. It's for the best. Step 2 is to give a good prompt. I always like to provide the context that I am working in Articulate Rise and I am working with the Mighty Chrome extension so that Claude kind of has the background of what code works here, what we are capable of doing using Mighty, etc. But I said to start a new chat because I couldn't find this one because I had started out asking about neon text options, but then I got bored with it and moved on to creating this process block. Anyway, I digress. So my initial prompt says, for Articulate Rise, let's create a CSS code snippet for use with the Mighty Chrome extension. I want to remove the spacing around the image in the process block so my image will tuck nicely against the edges of the card. So you can see I use layman's terms. I don't know enough about code to be able to say type in or use this element and change the padding, blah, blah, blah. If I knew that much, I would probably be coding myself. So instead, I just spoke in layman's terms, tried to be as clear and concise as possible, and Claude spit out, here's a CSS code snippet for the Mighty Chrome extension to remove spacing around images in Articulate Rise process blocks. Now, I copied this, and let me go ahead and show you where we go into power-ups. Created a new snippet, and I'm just going to call this process block. No padding on image. Save. And I'm in the CSS field right here. I'm actually going to select my block, which is pretty easy because I only have one process block in this entire course. So I can just search for or visually scan for that name. And down here, I'm going to paste in my CSS and click save. So now whenever I go preview my course, let's see what Claude did. Oh, and I'm going to have to continue all the way down. Maybe I should move this block up for the sake of testing here. And no luck, no dice. So I know what I did next for Claude was actually inspect this element. So what you can do, right click, go down to the inspect option. And this is going to open up a very intimidating panel with lots of information, especially for us non-coders. But what's most important is whenever you right click into the inspect panel, it's going to automatically pull to what you right clicked on. So as you can see, as I hover over this right here, this image alt class, it's actually highlighted on the left side of my screen. So as I continue to kind of hover over these different elements, you can see how it's selecting more or less of my page. So I actually went up to this one that includes the entirety of the process card. I right-clicked on this and went to copy element. And that basically just copied all of this text. Coming back into Claude here, I pasted that information. I said that didn't work. It still looks like this. I also added a screenshot. I want my image all the way up to the top right of the magenta box. I grabbed the element of the process block for you if that helps. And you can see where I pasted in that text that I got from the inspect function. So Claude allegedly solved it from there. Perfect. Now I can see the exact structure. Here's the correct CSS to remove the spacing around the image in the process block. And then if you want the image to extend all the way to the top of the magenta card, which I do, not just remove internal spacing, you will also need this. So I copied both of those and replaced my CSS. So let me just go back to edit. Okay, there. I paused for a second to move the process block to the top. I went into our power up. I selected the code snippet I had already started on and basically just did Control A, removed all of that, and let's try what Claude gave us this time. Copy and paste. And then I'm going to use the second one as well. Copy and paste. And I know I'm kind of in the way of that, but just pasted that in the bottom of the code snippet. Save. And as you can see, this is still not producing the result that I was looking for. I still have some padding here. So let's go back to our chat with Claude. And all I typed in was, nope, that didn't work. What can we do to troubleshoot and fix? And that's something that I really love to ask Claude instead of trying to um, describe the symptoms, which I might not be doing to the best of my ability. I just asked Claude, what can we do to figure this out together? And what I got back was, first, let's use the nuclear option with maximum specificity. So let's try it. Copy, Control Alt, delete, because I'm starting from a blank slate here, and paste. As you can see, that has done nothing. I don't know what that nuclear option was meant to do. Did nothing for me. Next, check if there's inline styling we need to override. Can you right-click on the image in your browser and select Inspect or Inspect Element, then look at the image tag, does blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, I skipped this step because I saw try this debugging version down below. And I love anytime that Claude gives me a debugging option, because what this does, and I'll show you, is it actually creates colored borders around all of the elements that we are looking at on the screen. And I just find this, I'm a visual person, so I find this much easier in troubleshooting to be able to say, oh, okay, within this colored border, that is where I see all of the excess padding that I want to get rid of. But in this case, the colored borders don't include the excess padding that I want to get rid of, which tells me that Claude is trying to impact the wrong item. And you'll see I'm even having trouble selecting the right words because, again, I'm a vibe coder. I don't know what I'm doing. I am trying to partner with Claude to tell me what I'm doing. So I knew that this was an issue. I took a screenshot of this and brought it back in and said the nuclear option didn't work. I tried the colored borders, but none of them include the excess space. So Claude says that is the key insight. If the colored borders don't include the excess space, then the spacing is coming from the card itself, which is the dot block dash process dash card container, not the media elements. So we got some new CSS to try here. Haha, okay. So this one is much closer. It took away all of the padding that we wanted on the left and right, but we still have some excess on the top. I believe that is from where I'm not using the header from the process block. But then I've also lost my padding down here by the text, which I do still want. So going back to Claude here, and it says, or if you want to keep the padding on the text, but remove it from the top where the image is. Okay, that is closer to what I want. So I'm gonna use this one instead. Okay, but that just put back all of the padding. And I told Claude as such. I said, okay, closer. Here is the result of your first code, which you can see I took a screenshot of that one. Still showing some excess space up top. The second option added back basically all the padding. So just giving a play-by-play back to Claude. Great progress. We're almost there. The issue is that there's likely a gap or spacing setting on the card's flexbox or grid layout. So let's target that. I'm going to copy that and bring it back in. Okay, getting closer again. If that small gap at the top persists, which it did, it might be coming from the order of elements. Looking at your screenshot, the number 5 and mighty image comparison text should be below the image. But if there's a step number 1, number or title above it, try this. This will force the image to be the first thing in the card, eliminating any spacing from elements that might be above it. Okay, so I'm going to add this to the bottom here. Haha! There we go. So that took my image exactly where I wanted it to go. So I said back, this looks great. I'd like to add back a little more padding around the text. How do I adjust these values? I don't recognize the REM unit. I was looking at this code, and typically whenever you are working with Claude, Claude does a good job of actually labeling each individual action that it's taking in your code. So some of this is in layman's terms where you can go through and kind of just change the numbers. So here's the one that I found. Add padding back only to description at bottom. So it's trying to add padding around my text here, but it says padding 2 REM and padding top 1.5 REM. Not familiar with that. What that is, I'm used to pixels. So I asked Claude. Claude said, REM stands for root M. It's a relative unit based on the root font size of the page. Blah, blah, blah. Not super important to me. It says to add more padding around your text, just increase the values. So I could increase it to 3 and 2, or if I want different padding on each side. And then I can also change it to pixels if I prefer. So let me play around with that and I'll be right back. Okay, I just cheated and looked at my final course, and what I had ended up changing this to was 3 REM, and what was the other one? 0.5. So I actually reduced this here. Ta-da! If you've stuck with me throughout this whole video, I know this was a little bit of a longer one. I hope that means that this was of value to you and that you feel like the vibe coding process is just a little bit demystified now, so that the next time you are inspired to create some sort of cool visual tweak, you're inspired to go use an AI partner of your choice and develop your own mighty code snippet to make it happen. And of course, if you have vibe coded before and you saw me make some sort of misstep or something along the way where I could have made the process a little bit smoother, I'm sure both me and the entire community would be very grateful if you took a moment to comment what I could have done better below. I would be so grateful. And I can't wait to see what code snippets you all create from this. All right, till next time.